be able to help poor Dean out with trying to negotiate through all this stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't help that I have two screens, and every time I change screens, I have to go hunting back around for where everything is. So I'm not totally two thumbs, but this system does not help me too much. Okay, so we do have the recording going. We can call the meeting to order, and let me get the, do you still see the?
No.
Of course.
There it is coming up. Yep.
Okay.
All right. I'll call the meeting to order at 9:07. Welcome everybody, board members, guests. Do we have any guests that are not usual players?
This is Wendy Colon, and this is my first meeting.
Oh,
I work
welcome.
at Platte Valley Medical Center.
Roro, guess what that sounds like? Sounds like somebody wants to be on the board as a hospital representative.
Somebody may have done an interview.
Somebody may have done an interview. Okay, good deal. Welcome. Appreciate you being here. All right, this is kind of a special meeting because it's the January meeting of the year, which we do have a couple of other items on the agenda to take care of. Primarily the board of directors being elected. I'm sorry, the board electing the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary positions. Is that correct, Dean? There's 3.
Yes.
So it's one of those things that because that's second on the agenda, we'll do the approval of the minutes first. Can we confirm, Dean, that we do have a quorum? I think it's going to be 6, I think.
Yes, Gil is also on, so that makes it the full deal, I believe.
Okay, because I think as Ron said, I think we're down 3 positions, so the quorum is going to be 6 or 7. 6 is what I'm thinking. So I will look for what are we looking for? Approval of September and November.
Yes, and November. Yep, and I sent those meeting minutes out earlier, kind of late last year for everybody to look over. I didn't hear of any corrections, so they should stand as sent.
So I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the September and November 2022 minutes.
I'll motion.
Is that Ron?
Ron.
Okay, second.
Lisa, I'll second.
Okay. This is always so weird on these virtual meetings. Anyone opposed to the approval of the minutes? Please speak up or turn your camera on, raise your hand. However you want to do it. Hearing no opposition from the board, we will approve those minutes. Dean?
Noted.
Okay.
Minutes approved.
So the second agenda item there, or the third agenda item there, is the board seat elections. This is something we do annually. As Dean said, I don't know that we have anybody who is chomping at the bit. There are assigned board people, and it is only those people who have been assigned to the board by the Board of County Commissioners who get to vote on this. And that doesn't mean to exclude everybody else, but it's not a general membership thing. It's just the LEPC board votes for the board officers. So I'm gonna let Dean take this over per the bylaws. We have the chair, which I currently fill, the vice chair, which is currently Chris Laws. Is that correct?
Chris is secretary. Vice chair is Katie.
Vice chair is Katie. Okay, I had it backwards there. So I'm currently the chair. Chris Laws is currently secretary. Katie Keith is currently the vice chair. And Dean, I'm going to let you go from there, if you would.
All right. First of all, do we have any other candidates who are running, wishing to also run for one of those board seat positions? Speak now, or forever, or at least for a year, hold your peace.
Or any other open nominations?
Hearing none, I think that we can move to elect the current slate of chair seats. That would be the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary.
I just want to confirm, Chris, you're okay continuing as the secretary? If you would give me an affirmative.
Yeah, it's April, no problem.
Okay, Katie, you're okay with continuing as the vice chair?
Yes.
Okay, and I guess I'll continue as the chair. If nobody else wants to step up and take it away from me, please. No, never mind. So.
Yep, and so only board members can vote in the board election. So the other board members that are present, is anyone opposed to the current slate?
I think, Dean, we can probably do it by acclamation. If
I
there's
think
no
we
other
can do it by
nominees.
acclamation.
If there's no other
So-
nominees, and I don't know whether you need to do the individual chair, vice chair, and treasurer by acclamation, or whether we can just do the bunch.
Yeah, I was going to say, since nobody has replied any opposition to re-electing the current slate, again, all opposed? Hearing none, I would say that by acclamation, we can say that the current slate of board seats has been re-elected as of today. And congratulations, and thank you for your service to this board.
And I concur.
Okay. So we go into our more regular meeting agenda items. Any of the legislative or regulatory updates from anybody on the call?
There is, this is Katie Keefe, Adams County. Just to let the group know, I know I may be jumping up on the agenda if Adams County is going to come a little bit later, but just to let everybody know, CDPHE, or their is Air Pollution Control Division, has initiated rulemaking that'll impact Regulation 3 for air permitting and modeling for facilities located within disproportionately impacted communities. And so I think initially right now it's just a public engagement and stakeholder engagement. They have released a statement of basis and purpose and draft red lines that are available on the Air Pollution Control Division website.
Thank you, Katie. That's definitely a regulatory update. I think there's no issue going then. Does anyone have any comments or further updates on either current or upcoming legislation or regulations?
Dean, I sat in on a virtual meeting with the Colorado State Patrol the other day. They did some regulatory updates to their statutory requirements. Hazmat reimbursement requirements, hazmat routing requirements, and there had something to do with CDOT and I think definitions. It was pretty much straightforward. Virtually all the changes were changing from 2022 to 2023. There was some language changes, but nothing substantive that I saw, and certainly nothing that I felt like there was any objection to. But there was some legislative updates, regulatory updates from CSP dealing with hazmat.
Okay, thank you. I will also remind everybody that is on the call, if you could put your name and possibly your jurisdiction or agency in the chat. That way we can kind of keep track of who's on the call and who attends. We'd appreciate that.
Again, if I can just remind everybody that the fence line monitoring program and notification, that went into effect the first of the year. And so that requires emergency notification to be sent out whenever there's an emission exceedance on certain particles or emissions coming from facilities. So been working with AdCom and some of the local fire districts and stuff like that to develop a process on how that looks. So far, we haven't really had to deal with it. We haven't had anything, but just put that on everybody's radar that is now on the books.
Thanks, Ron. That was important that we bring that up. That's a big deal in our county. Anything else, or should we move to partner updates?
I was just going to ask real quick on the fence line monitoring that came into effect. I know Suncor has that program well underway. Are they the only ones that are impacted by that, or do we have other facilities that are required to do the fence line monitoring? Anybody out there in the group that?
Yeah.
Yep.
I could answer that for you, Glenn. There
Okay.
are 3 facilities in Adams County that are required to have fence line air monitoring plans because they emit 1 or all 3 of the air toxics specified in the legislation. Phillips 66 just released their draft fence line monitoring plan, and it's been posted and it's available for public review and comment. And that you can find that also on the CDPHE Air Pollution Control Division website. Probably the easiest way to navigate to that is just to search for fence line air monitoring plan.
Thank you. Are there any of our
And the
facilities?
other facility, sorry, I forgot to mention the other facility in Adams County. So there's Suncor, the Sinclair Tank Farm, and then Phillips 66 Tank Farm. I think Sinclair, it's got a different name now, but it's the 2 tank farms that are somewhat close to each other and also close to Suncor.
The facility representatives that we have in the meeting, is there any heartburn that you're having over that, or is there anything the LEPC needs to look to help you in order to be in compliance specifically? No, not hear anything. Okay. Moving down the agenda then. Partner updates. Go ahead, Dean.
Yep. So the first one on there is Adams County Health Department has taken over for Tri-County Health, which dissolved. And so welcome to all our representatives from Adams County Health Department. And anyone wish to hop on and give an update? I know Lisa.
This is Lisa Olivito.
Great.
I'd like to introduce Megan Mueller. She is my coworker in emergency preparedness and response. And I think Jeff McLaren's on as well from environmental health, but from our standpoint over here in VPR, we are just trying to get up and running and get our ducks in a row and set our priorities, put together our public health incident management team, etc. Do anything with them? Oh, just trying to keep the ball rolling and get in touch with our partners. All good. We're having fun.
Thanks. That sounds great. Glad to have you aboard and appreciate that. Anyone else? Let's see. State of Colorado. Do we have any representatives from any state agencies? Hearing none. Keep things moving. Federal partners. EPA. CISA usually comes on. Okay. All right. CPRN, any other oil and gas or facility representatives?
Can you hear me, Glenn?
We can hear you.
All right, cool. Yeah, this is Dan with CPRN. Just want to thank you guys for letting us borrow your emergency operations center in December for that tabletop exercise with oil and gas, emergency management, the fire districts. I think it went really well. We did an after action report. So if anybody wants to see that from oil and gas or emergency management or the fire districts, just reach out to me. I put my email in the chat. There were between the exercise that we had in November in Weld at the Weld OEM and the exercise we did at your shop, we had 9 fire districts participate, 9 oil and gas companies, 9 offices of emergency management, 3 state agencies, and 1 federal agency. So I thought real good turnout. We learned a lot about kind of pre-incident and post-incident communication. So I think we all do really well in response. It's just kind of gearing up and then the aftermath. Our meetings are going to start up again on February 17th. There'll be regular meetings the 3rd Friday bi-monthly, so every other month starting in February. We'll have an in-person and virtual option for our meetings if you want to learn more about oil and gas, emergency management, and fire service working together in the TJ Basin. Our in-person will be at the Platteville Fire Station 1, so that's not quite a long drive from the Adams County border there in Weld County. We are bringing back Wild Well Control to do their incident management training on fighting well fires and pipeline fires. That'll be February 24th. And if you want to sign up for that, just shoot me an email. February 27th, that's a Monday. We're having our energy critical infrastructure protection meetings. We'll start up those quarterly meetings. That's where law enforcement and the oil and gas industry security professionals meet up, talk about what's going on in the DJ Basin. Emergency managers often come to that too, and then pass on to the sheriff's offices and the small town police departments what's going on. So we just look at trends. We usually have kayak representation there, so we can talk about infrastructure protection and security. That is a lunch meeting, and that's at the Frederick Firestone Fire Protection District Admin Building. Or this year we will have a virtual option for that too. And then we just continue to do our oil and gas 101 classes for firefighters, emergency managers. We're trying to put together a video right now for law enforcement. And on Friday, we finalized our job aid, which is kind of a follow-up to that 101 class. So we'll get that published here pretty soon, and we'll offer that up to all the LEPCs as well. That's all I got, unless there's any questions for Colorado Preparedness and Response Network.
Thank you, Dan. So this is Dan Frazen for everybody on the call. If you go through the chat and pull up Dan's contact information for any of those dates that he mentioned, if you're interested, or email me, I can forward any information that anybody's missing, or just contact Dan directly. Any other facilities online? Oh, sorry.
If I can just add on to what Dan was saying, in addition to Dan's classes, Paradigm also offers classes. They've got one coming up in Brighton. They're oil and gas companies that all kind of get together. They do a short tabletop. They've asked us to encourage, particularly our first response agencies, to participate. Unfortunately, sometimes we have these classes and we have very, very minimal participation. So we'd like to kind of encourage, particularly the fire departments, police departments, to get out. OEMs are usually there, but we'd like to get more first responder agencies to participate. It's a good chance to network. It's a good chance to get some of your people who may not be familiar with response to oil and gas issues to get a little training. So if you can make it, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Yeah, those are HC compliant exercises is what they said to us. So if you have a EMPG or any other reason you need to attend exercises, or you just want some good training, please come to those, and they do have lunch as well. Okay, any other facilities? All right, let me see if I can switch to.
Before you move on completely, just give an opportunity for the other municipalities, OEMs, Westminster, Brighton, Aurora, anybody that's on board. Any reports there?
Nothing from Westminster.
Hey guys, it's Stephanie from Brighton. Nothing from Brighton, but was wondering if we would get a chance to hear about any updates from Suncor today. Didn't know if that was something potentially coming up later.
Well, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
This is Ron Summers. We are investigating our incidents right now. So, in light of having those answers for you, I can tell you I don't really have a whole lot to add for you.
I appreciate that. Do you have any information about the timeline of getting back up running right now? Is it still looking like the end of March, or any updates on that front?
I do not have an update, but once I get that, I'll pass on to the group.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if I could just add on as well, not to speak directly to the Suncor incident, I don't have a lot of information about that, but from the state perspective, I've been talking with Corey and Mike Willis at the state. There is a contingency plan for these kind of incidents when there might be a shortage. If you're not familiar, Suncor provides 30-40% of fuel to the state of Colorado. They're big in the asphalt industry as well, and also supplying to DIA. So there's a lot of impact on the state. There are contingency plans. There's a state contingency plan for liquid fuels, and they have enacted some of that. Some of that has to do with adjusting regulations for how much can be carried on a highway and different rules like that. I don't have the entire book in front of me, but just know that the state is working on different contingencies to help get us through this issue.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
Dean, Katie has her hand up.
Okay, I just changed my screen again and lost everybody. So let me see if I can.
I just had a real quick question for Ron Summers. Do you happen to know if the discharge to Sand Creek that was elevated in benzene, has that been resolved? Or is it still is it in the containment phase?
That I don't have the information on. I'll have to get back to you. I believe it's in containment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Not hearing any further updates from our partners. I can go to the spill reporting, and that will be just an overview of last year's spills. And let me just pull that screen up here real quick. Kidding me. Let's see. It's not. There we go. Does everyone see a spreadsheet?
Yep.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. So what I did was I compiled all the spill reports that we got last year, except for what's not shown on here are ones that didn't give me any kind of a quantity. So we'll get a report that some sewage was spilled and there was no, there was no amount of gallons or something. It might have been a slow leak that they found and stopped. So this isn't complete and in the sense of encompassing every possible thing that was spilled or reported. But for the major spills where there was some sort of quantity, as it says at the top, it was in gallons unless noted differently, and I outlined those cases in green instead of blue on the left. So going through that, what I like about having this spreadsheet, and everyone can kind of read it for themselves if you can see it well, is not only the quantities that were spilled in total, but also how many incidents, per type of spill. So we had a lot of what you can see there. We had a lot of sewage and sanitary sewer overflows. We had a lot of diesel spills. Most of them were in the kind of smaller quantities. A lot of them were an accident where the tank on a truck started leaking, or it was a misfueling at a station. And that was also true of the gasoline spill. we had the largest quantities were in potable water and reclaimed water. And those you can see are, quite extensive, but probably the least toxic of anything that is spilled, if I understand correctly, and health department can correct me if that's more of a toxics issue. So just going down there, I won't read them all to you one by one, but everybody can take a look and let me know if you have any questions. So down at the bottom, you see anhydrous ammonia and sulfur dioxide. So those were gases that were released to the air versus a spill onto the ground. So I also wanted to separate that. And those were pounds released into the air rather than gallons. The anhydrous ammonia spill came from one facility, a food processing facility, I believe in Aurora, and they just seem to have a whole lot of air conditioning type units on the building to keep the food cool, and they've had some problems with those, the valves breaking and releasing all the ammonia in that container or that system, and that happened 3 times last year. Were there any other questions on the spill reporting?
Dean, I had 2 questions.
Sure.
I'm at a loss. What is tack oil?
So apparently that has something to do with either paving or something similar to that. I didn't know what it was either. It was in one report. As you can see, it was 3 gallons. They were using it as some sort of road surface. And then what happened was before they had finished, it started to rain and some of that washed off. And so they reported that as a spill.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's not for horses. It's not tack oil for saddles. It's something to do probably to make paving more tacky or something like that.
I don't know.
Thing I'm familiar with.
The 3 gallons of that and the 3 gallons of antifreeze both struck me as kind of. The other question I had was on the sulfur dioxide, and this is not intended to pick on anybody, but it's 5 of the entries are 501 pounds. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah, pounds there. 501 pounds. Is that a do we know, is that a general number? It's like greater than 500, but less than 505 or something? Or is it, what is the significance of 501 coming up 5 times? Is there any?
These were from the refinery, and I don't know if that's the threshold amount, if 500 pounds is the threshold amount. And so they said, just to be sure, we'll report it as 501. That's something I could clarify and report back.
No, I don't think we need clarification on it as such. I just didn't know if anybody had any comments on it, because it just struck me as kind of odd that it's 501, 501, 501, 500, 501, and then a 573, and then another 501. It looked like it was all hovering around that 500. So I suspect you're right. I suspect that the 500 is probably a threshold quantity, a threshold reporting quantity. Do any of our group members out there have any comment on that?
I just pulled up the 40 CFR sulfur dioxide. Yeah, 500 pounds is the reportable quantity.
So that's what I suspect is you're probably right, Dean. It's probably, well, we're just going to report it as 501, so we know we get a report put in, but we're not really sure exactly. I'm sure they know it's not much more than that, but it just, like I said, it just struck me as odd. It looked like it was an administrative thing rather than a true actual measure.
Right, and that one large one, let's see, I have to get closer, it's small. The 1540 was actually reported as 0.77 tons. So I did a little conversion. So any other questions? I'll shift back to, yes.
And I'm sorry if I missed it. What is the timeline on this report?
It is all reports of last year.
So December to December?
Or January to December.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Sorry for not being more specific about that. Anybody else? All right, I'm gonna stop sharing that, go back to the agenda, unless I lose all my screens again. And let's see. Does everyone see the
Yep, it's up.
agenda again? Great.
All right, so somebody have a question, comment?
All right.
Moving
Sorry if I
on to
stepped
old
on
business.
anybody.
No, that was me. Moving on to old business then. I don't know whether we want to talk about it in old business or the new business, but some of us from the board met to talk about the LEPC's role in upcoming years specifically and upcoming years in general. I know that we have talked several times about trying to get some more involvement through both the board members and through the general membership. Identifying the general membership is always one of those things that we also try and do, because there's some requirements through the state that the general membership of the LEPC be identified. So we're working on doing that. Is that we've got the board members. We're still down 2 positions that I am aware of, and I would certainly encourage Wendy to make some comments here as far as the health and medical side of things are concerned. We discussed, I think it probably goes into new business, trying to get more LEPC involvement in the community, some outreach for educational purposes, and I think we want to try and get some more involvement from our specific disciplines. It's like what they were talking about with the CPRN, the Colorado Preparedness Response Network, not having a lot of involvement from the fire departments. That has always been kind of a disappointment for me, so I'm going to try and encourage that. I think we are going to reach out to more of our fire departments and make sure that they know that they really truly need to be involved in some of your activities, especially when you're having exercises. To leave them out is shame on them, because I know you guys are all reaching out to them and inviting them, but they're not always showing up, which, like I said, I think that's one of the things that we're going to look at from the board side and try and encourage fire chiefs to encourage their folks to get involved in some of your activities as well. We discussed quite a bit about upcoming threats within the LEPC and within the fire service and law enforcement and the community in general. I know there's a big push right now on the lithium-ion batteries and the battery storage units, and they range from building stuff to vehicles to mobile toys and that kind of stuff. There's a big push within the fire service right now to get some training on the lithium-ion batteries and specifically the lithium-ion chemicals within those batteries. There's like 7 or 9 chemical processes that use lithium ion, and there's about 2 or 3 that are of concern within the fire and hazmat communities. Chief Schumann, you have a comment.
Yeah, sorry, I took my cursor off the microphone. Who is our fire agency representative on the board? I don't have that information in front of me.
Dean, I can't remember his name. He's from Thornton.
Theo?
Yep, Thornton Fire. Yep.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of who it was. Because and Glenn, if I'm jumping on something you're about to say, I apologize, but since you called on me, on top of the lithium ion batteries, there's also the PFOS issue with firefighting foams and firefighter bunker gear, or PPE, that's also kind of on the forefront that I think that this group should have some, at least be a conduit from CDPHE on some of the current regulations on foam usage, storage, and alternatives. I know Dan's group has been great about pushing out alternatives to PFOS foams, but I think that's one other item on the agenda if you didn't have it there.
Ron, you had your hand up.
Yeah, if I can just add in as well, I think I'd like to see moving forward just some consideration or thought about electric vehicles and dealing with electric vehicles that are involved in auto crashes and those kind of things from a hazmat perspective, and then also vehicles that are, I don't know what they do with them once they're finished. I don't know if they crush them like they used to do old cars, or what they do, or what do they do with the batteries and where do they go and all that. So I think that's a discussion we can have for later on, but just something to put on the table.
And I know there's a company up in northern Nevada outside of Reno that is doing lithium ion battery recovery and recycling, where they actually take the cells apart and recover the copper, the cobalt, and the lithium metals out of them. And that's a big venture thing that they have going on up there. I know that some of the tow companies are being caught a little behind, as far as I'm concerned, a little behind in some of the towing and storage and special considerations of the lithium powered cars. I think the one that concerns me the most is the law enforcement community, quite frankly. I think the fire service has done a good job of getting up and running on some of the concerns that they have, but I think law enforcement is probably tailing behind a little bit. My worst case scenario for them is having a car inside of an evidence vault, inside of a building that has been involved in some kind of a crash or some kind of an incident where the security of the batteries may have been jeopardized somehow, because they have a nasty habit in these things of catching on fire. And once they catch on fire, it's pretty much let it go to the ground. So I think, yeah, our first response community is looking at that, but I think we need to get more involved. I think we're starting to see some good classes that are coming out that are available through both the NFPA and through the industry standards. I know National Renewable Energy Labs up in Golden, they have done some work with the lithium batteries as well as hydrogen powered vehicles. And they put together some trainings that are available to first responders, primarily the fire community. But if you guys are aware of anything that's out there, or have anything to offer to our LEPC or facilities or first response community, I would certainly encourage you to speak up and let us know about it through Dean, and make sure that Ron and Dean are aware of it. Because I know the emergency response community is hungry for information, especially when it comes to the safety response considerations. And then I know that we have some storage and we have some disposal issues that have not yet been addressed. So like I said, that's like I said, one of the topics of conversation we had, and we want to try and keep the LEPC as vibrant and as relevant as we possibly can. And that takes cooperation and involvement from all of our members and all of our industry partners and all of our government partners as well. So don't hold back. Let us know what's going on in your community. On the medical side, I know through maybe Michael Bean can address something on this. I know there is a RAD exercise coming up sometime in May-ish of this year. And I don't know whether it's pure tabletop or whether there's a field component as well, that I know is primarily medical, first receiver sort of emphasis on it for the hospitals. That's the one that Michelle Deland is working on. So I don't know, Michael, do you know anything about that exercise?
I don't. That hasn't come up in our committee meetings. I can reach out to Michelle, get information, give it to Dean to send out, but I haven't heard of it.
Okay, I don't think she has a whole lot yet. It's still in very preliminary stages. But for our hospital partners out there, the Healthcare Coalition is organizing an exercise that will be a RAD specific sort of thing. And I think what they're trying to do is find weaknesses, strengths and weaknesses in the first receiver community at the hospitals, as far as being sure that they are prepared to search, locate, find, and deal with any kind of a radiation hazard or radiation incident that might come up. So that was kind of old and new business. If somebody else has something else, we'll take it. Back to you, Dean.
Thanks, Glenn. Anything else? Any other announcements? Anything coming up? One thing I will say, if I don't hear anything from anybody else, is we will like to go back to at least a combined in-person and virtual meeting. I will book the government center meeting rooms that we used to use for these meetings, but I would encourage everyone out there who has any kind of a facility, any kind of a presentation, anything that you'd like us to do a field trip and visit a well pad, any of those kind of things, as as part of our meetings to make them a little more exciting and relevant. Please reach out to me and we'll book those. But I will start having the option of an in-person meeting at the Adams County Government Center, and I'll send out directions and addresses and maps and all those things to go with it. But I think it'll be great to see each other's faces in person once again, if everyone's amenable to that. But if not, if this is a lot more convenient and we want to just stay as a virtual meeting, I can understand that, and we may see how it goes this year. But so I will plan for our next meeting in March to be a hybrid. So I will bring, some more technology to facilitate online presence as well. But just wanted to put that out there.
And so, I would encourage our facilities, if you have a little presentation, a dog and pony show, a video, PowerPoint presentation or something that you can present to the LEPC that talks about your facility or talks about your industry or talks about things that are kind of on the horizon or currently going on, that have a relevance to the LEPC, I would encourage you to include that in our meetings. I think Dean struck the nail on the head in saying we want to encourage involvement and we want to encourage relevance, make sure that people are getting something of benefit, some value added out of this meeting. And I think one of the ways we have done that in the past is to have actual people who are representing industries or representing facilities come up and speak. It used to be literally, but now I think it could be virtually, and do a presentation on your facility or your industry or whatever's going on. Again, Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick. We're going to be marrying up our community preparedness program this year with some of the LEPC information, public information and community information. So we're going to try and get more and more information out about LEPC hazards, Right to Know Act, all that through our community preparedness program, working with Kyle Lopez in my office. So if you have anything that you can send to us, we appreciate it.
As far as community response people representatives, I would encourage you to reach out to your homeowners associations, to reach out to your environmental associations, to reach out to the people who tend to be feeling as though they are being kept in the dark, or worse than that, being caught up in some kind of a cover-up conspiracy or something. Let's bring it out into the daylight. Let's bring them on board. Let's get them out here so that they can meet the people who are running the businesses and running the industries and who are the response community and the government regulatory sides and things. And let's try and make some connections and reach out and find some people who are involved in the community that we should be helping them out to understand how the LEPC works and how the industry works and how government works, and try and like I said, shed some light on some of these dark corners that people just are a little confused about. Anybody else?
I'm going to jump in with one more small note, and that is if you are a facility tier 2 reporter, please remember to look up and put in your tier 2 report the fire district or fire department that your facility is in. I've been going through the tier 2 reports, and a lot of them will put the firehouse number, but that doesn't really tell us what fire district your facility is in. So I'll be going through and correcting those and notifying the people that haven't done it. But I do just want to put it out proactively if you would make sure to put in your fire district. And if you don't have that information, I will be updating the fire district map on our website as well. That's it.
Appreciate it, Dean. Anything else for the good of the order?
And if everybody sees the LEPC at adcogov.org is a quick way to email me and reach, with any LEPC matters. So it's kind of right there on the bottom of the agenda. So if you have any questions about anything we presented or want to any of the information, you can contact me there.
Appreciate it. Welcome, anybody all to the LEPC. Thank you for coming, showing up at the meeting. Welcome to 2023. Hopefully this will be a far more productive year than the last couple. And with that, I would call for adjournment.
I'll move for adjournment. Any second?
Mark Schumann, I'll second.
Second.
I heard Mark Schumann. I believe that means we are adjourned. I will stop the meeting recording and thank you all for coming to the first LEPC meeting for 2023 and look forward to seeing some people in person in March.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.